Welcome to the deep dive. It's pretty striking sometimes when you see how old problems just keep cropping up. We're sitting here in 2025, and, a border dispute that just flared up last month, tragically. A soldier lost his life. It actually comes down to decisions made way, way back in 1907. It's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
It really is. Astonishing.
So today, we're really digging into this Thailand-Cambodia border conflict. We want to understand how a map drawn over a century ago can still be causing real-world danger, real conflict. We're talking about these two neighbors, Thailand and Cambodia. They share over 800 kilometers of border. And this recent escalation, a Cambodian soldier was killed, borders were closed, troops moved in. It really begs the question, is this just another sort of predictable flare-up, or could it be something bigger brewing? Our mission today for this deep dive is basically to pull out the key pieces of information, the real nuggets, from the source material you sent over that transcript from Firstpost on YouTube, how a 1907 map has sparked Thailand-Cambodia clashes.
And that's exactly what's so fascinating, I think, how these decisions made so long ago, seemingly distant history, can just reverberate so strongly today. I mean, they literally shape current geopolitics, current realities, and, like you said, even spark armed conflict. So we'll try to connect those historical roots, those lines drawn back then, to what's happening right now, the immediate implications, give you the full picture.
Yeah, trying to make sense of how lines on paper still matter so much.
Exactly, how they continue to dictate things today.
Okay, so let's jump right into that immediate spark then.
Yeah.
May 28th, a Cambodian soldier was killed. It was described as a brief military clash with Thai forces. And this happened near the Emerald Triangle. That's where Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos all meet. It's historically remote, kind of dense jungle, tricky to patrol.
The natural flashpoint, really.
Right, so it wasn't like a full-scale war, thankfully, but definitely a rare fatality along the long, sensitive frontier, as the source put it. So what happened right after? What was the immediate reaction on the ground?
Well, the striking thing was, almost instantly, you got these two totally different stories. Cambodia came out saying Thailand attacked first.
Okay.
And Thailand said, no, we were just responding to gunshots we heard. This immediate blame game. It really tells you something about the level of trust, or maybe the lack of trust between them.
Yeah, that speaks volumes.
Either way, things got tense fast. The border went hot, as they say.
And it all comes back to this badly drawn map from 1907. It's just incredible. How does something like that from over 100 years ago still light the fuse for actual fighting today? What was wrong with the map itself?
Well, that's the heart of it, isn't it? The problem is the lack of precision in those old colonial boundaries. You have to remember, Cambodia was under French rule then. The border was drawn up by France and Siam, which is, modern-day Thailand.
Right, Siam.
They share this long border, 817 kilometers. But the line, especially near some ancient temples, it was just left really, really vague.
Unclear.
Exactly. And the key insight isn't just that the map was badly drawn, maybe, but how that vagueness, the ambiguity, it became, a political tool. It left just enough wiggle room, you could say, for both countries to later claim absolute sovereignty over the same patches of land.
So the ambiguity itself is the problem.
Pretty much. It turned a geographical line into this never-ending source of friction, almost convenient for the colonial powers at the time, maybe, but a nightmare later on.
This isn't the first time this ambiguity has exploded, right? I remember reading about 2008.
Oh, yeah. Definitely not.
Things got really violent back then near the Priya Vihar temple complex. That's an 11th century Hindu temple. And that conflict, it actually dragged on for years. 28 people died. Diplomatic relations just broke down completely.
28 lives.
Yeah, over a temple and a disputed line. It's a really chilling reminder of the human cost. It got so bad that in 2011, the UN actually had to get involved.
Right. And if you look at the legal side of things, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, the UN's top court, and they ruled in 2013, they said the disputed land around Priya Vihar belonged to Cambodia.
Okay, so a clear ruling.
A clear ruling, yes. But, and this is crucial, Thailand wasn't having it. They basically rejected the ruling. They insisted, no, we need to solve this bilaterally, just between us.
So they just ignored the world court.
Pretty much. It really shows you the limits of international law sometimes, doesn't it? National sovereignty often trumps these global judgments, especially when feelings run high.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's fast forward back to this year. Things were already tense before the May 28th clash, weren't they?
You were simmering, yeah.
There was that incident with a viral video Some Cambodian women singing a patriotic song near another disputed temple.
That's right, and that prompted a formal protest from Thailand, so the baseline tension was already elevated.
And then, boom, May 28th happens. The clash, the fatality. What happened immediately after this time?
Well, again, accusations flew back and forth, and both sides quickly moved in more troops, reinforcing their positions along the border. Thailand specifically shut down 2 border crossings, though only to tourists, not for all trade.
Right.
And the Thai army came out with quite strong statements. They said they were ready to defend its national sovereignty. They even claimed Cambodia had reinforced first and that Thailand was prepared for, quote, a high-level operation if needed.
Wow, strong words.
Very strong. But it's also important, like you said, trade and movement of workers did continue elsewhere, so it wasn't a total lockdown, more like specific pressure points.
Interesting. But amidst all that, the Thai Prime Minister, Pingtarn Chatra, he actually called for calm, didn't he? He said something like, I want both sides there at the border to remain calm and discuss what we can agree upon. I hope we can have peaceful discussion.
Yes, he did, which adds another layer.
So how do we square that? The call for calm from the top, but then troops moving on the ground.
Well, that's where it gets murky. The source suggests there was a misunderstanding on both sides about exactly where military operations were happening, who was encroaching where. Cambodia's position was very firm, though. They stated they wouldn't withdraw troops from the area.
Why not?
They framed it as a matter of sovereignty and national security, essentially saying, we're defending our territory based on international law, implying their interpretation of that old map and the law.
Which is presumably different from Thailand's interpretation.
Exactly. So you have a situation where both sides are digging in, citing sovereignty and law, but likely based on different understandings of where the line actually is.
So it's that classic paradox. Both sides are saying, we want peace, but at the same time, they're both beefing up their military presence.
It's a very delicate tightrope walk, yes. Actions and words not quite matching up.
But there have been some positive steps since then, efforts to de-escalate.
Yes, thankfully. On June 2nd, there was an agreement. Both militaries agreed to actually reposition their troops, pull them back a bit from the immediate flashpoints.
Okay, that's good news.
It's definitely a positive sign. It shows, a willingness to step back from the brink, at least for now.
And the Thai PM, Pingtarn Chatra, he also mentioned that talks reached a positive conclusion.
That's right. That statement came out around the same time as the troop pullback agreement.
So the focus now shifts to June 14th, right? There's a joint boundary commission meeting scheduled.
That's the big one coming up.
That's where they're supposed to really sit down and try to hash out these long-standing differences over the border itself.
Exactly. That's the forum designed for this kind of detailed negotiation.
So stepping back a bit, what does this all mean for the bigger picture? Where do things stand now?
Well, look, this isn't a full-blown war, let's be clear about that. But it is definitely a serious standoff. And I think what it really underscores, what it highlights, is just how fragile many borders in Southeast Asia actually are.
Because of their history.
Precisely. So many of them, like this one, are legacies from the colonial era. Lines drawn by outside powers, often more for their own convenience than for, say, ethnic realities or clear geography. They left behind these kinds of geopolitical ticking time bombs, you could say.
Yeah, lines drawn without thinking of the long-term consequences.
We're right. So this specific dispute is kind of a symptom of that wider regional issue.
Okay. So really all eyes are now on those June 14th talks.
Absolutely. They're critical.
And it feels like it could go one of two ways, right? If they manage to de-escalate properly, maybe this just quietly fades away like similar incidents have in the past few years.
That's the hope, that diplomacy prevails.
But if there's another incident, another flare-up, before or during the talks,
then things could spiral very quickly. The potential for miscalculation is high when troops are facing off like this. It's a serious concern, not just for them, but for the whole region's stability.
So wrapping up, we've seen how a line drawn on a map back in 1907, more than a century ago, can still directly lead to armed clashes, troop movements, and tragically, loss of life here in 2025. It's just a really stark reminder, isn't it? How history, specifically things like colonial map-making, keeps echoing in today's world in very real geopolitical tensions.
It really is, and it highlights that delicate, often tense balance between diplomacy on one hand and military posturing on the other. Understanding these historical complexities, where these disputes actually come from, is just so crucial for understanding regional stability or instability today. It's not just about the headlines now, it's about those deep roots.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, what does it really mean for international relations today when a 118-year-old line on a map can still cause people to shoot at each other, can still lead to fatalities? And it makes you wonder what other historical ghosts, what other old disputes or legacies might be lurking beneath the surface, influencing conflicts or tensions in other parts of the world right now.
That's a profound question, worth pondering.
Definitely something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complexities of the Thailand-Cambodia border dispute.